Hi, this is Professor Burge. We're going to go through this hard news story and talk about both that and the material in Chapter 2 as they're both related. This is a hard news story about a Rutgers football player that ran last year. Okay. Like all stories, every story has a headline, right? This one is Rutgers football player arrested for robbery, right? Um, Down here, Steve Chambers, that's the reporter who wrote the story. That is simply called a byline. Uh, it's by that person thing, right? The first paragraph of a hard news story, or actually the first paragraph of any story, feature, whatever, is called the lead. And you're simply in the lead telling the reader the most important information. What do they have to know first? Right? If they only read one paragraph of the entire story, this is the one that will tell them everything they absolutely need to know to really get the gist of it. So this is a hard news lead, right? A member of the Rutgers football team has been arrested after he allegedly robbed a man in a campus parking lot in New Brunswick and then threatened a student with an air pistol after knocking on his apartment door, authorities said. So this is one paragraph and one sentence. Hard news leads are typically one sentence. So it's one paragraph. It's around 30 words. I didn't actually check how many words this was. Let's see if I can do it here. Tools, word count. Wow, 40 words. I would have made that shorter. But typically 30 words. When you write a lead, it should be around 30 words for a hard news story. The most important information goes in the lead, all right? And how do you determine what is the most important information? You answer certain questions. And those are the 5 W's and how. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. Now you can't put all of those in the lead. That's too much information. It's too long a lead if you get all of those in. So you have to decide what information is the most important. What information does your reader need to know first? Okay, so let's go through it. A member of the Rutgers football team. So that answers the question, who, right? So we've got that taken care of. And it's a good start because people are crazy about Rutgers football. And if you start a story indicating right away that it's about the football team, you're likely to get a lot of people to stay with the story. Research has shown that writers generally have about 3 seconds to capture a reader's attention and to get them to stay with the story. And that's not a lot of time. That's like no time. And so your lead has to really have interesting and important information and be written in a way that would attract attention. So here we're starting with a member of the Rutgers football team. It answers the question, who? That is the most important information for this story. Has been arrested. Okay? That is the what. After he allegedly robbed a man robbed a man. All right, we'll go back to our yellow. And that answers the question, why? Why was he arrested? In a campus parking lot in New Brunswick. So that's where. And then threatened a student with an air pistol after knocking on his apartment door, which also goes to the question, what? So this author has gotten 4 of the 5 W's and into the lead. It's part of the reason it's 40 words long. Okay, but all of those things are interesting. All of those things are important, and so that's why they're there. Okay. If we go to the second paragraph, that is called a backup paragraph, and it's important because everything you say in the lead has to be supported in the second paragraph. So we're talking about a member of the football team here. We have to know more information about the football player in this paragraph. We're talking about how that student athlete was arrested. We have to say more about that event, right? So the backup paragraph starts, an alert sent out by the university. So this is probably how the reporter found out that this event had happened. If this reporter covers Rutgers, I'm sure he's on all their alerts for the media, and that was probably how he learned about this. Or someone contacted him after the alert went out. Reported that Justin Francis, so now we know the student athlete's name. Okay, we now know the who, more in depth the who. This has in addition to being a hard news lead, it's also called a delayed identification lead. And that means you don't put the person's name in the lead, you put it in the second paragraph, right? So Justin Francis, a native of Miramar, Florida, knocked on the student's door Sunday night, pulled the trigger 3 times when the man answered, then ran away laughing. A short time later, he allegedly displayed the fake gun and demanded a cell phone from a man in a university parking lot, police said. So let's take another look at the first and second paragraphs here. A man was arrested, and what we have here is the word allegedly. So authorities are saying that this guy robbed a man on campus and then pulled out an air pistol and threatened somebody. Okay. We don't know that for a fact. That's a matter under adjudication, as they say. There will be an investigation, I'm sure, by the student's attorney. There'll be fact finding, there'll be all that stuff, but it's not a proven fact. There hasn't been a trial, there hasn't been any of that. So when you write about a crime or any matter of conflict, you use allegedly, which means it has been claimed. It's claimed that he robbed a man. Okay. And you have to tell your reader where you're getting that information. You're making an accusation that someone broke the law. You have to tell your readers where you got that information because it's not a fact, right? And in case they've used authority said. So in a hard news story, when you're writing about conflict, when you're accusing someone of a crime or anything else, you have to include your attribution in the lead, right? We look at the second paragraph again. We see allegedly used again, right? Short time later, he allegedly displayed the fake gun. It is claimed he displayed the fake gun and demanded a cell phone from a man at the university. Police said, right? And again, you're making an allegation. Someone's is alleged to have committed a crime. You're going to tell your reader where you got that information. And the reason you do that, not only to protect yourself from libel claims, is to increase your credibility with your reader. Why should any reader believe what you put online or in the newspaper or anywhere on a television station, in radio? Why should anyone believe you? And the answer to that question is, well, because I've asked someone who's in a position to know, and this is what they told me. And then you tell the reader who that person is, in this case, the police, the authorities, okay? So everything that's happened here, it's not a fact yet. It's under dispute. This is what has claimed to have happened. What these various people involved in the event, the police, student in the apartment, they claim this happened, but it's not a fact yet. And so you have to use attribution. If we go down to the third paragraph, we have more information. Francis, 19, a defensive tackle, was arrested Thursday. So now we have the when, right, in the third paragraph. That wasn't in the first paragraph, and it wasn't in the second paragraph. So now we're answering the rest of the questions. He was held overnight at the Middlesex County Jail on $20,000 bail, but posted bail this evening. He's charged with robbery, possession of a weapon, burglary, and a terrorist threats. Now, there's no attribution in this entire paragraph. The reporter has not said police said. He hasn't said allegedly. He hasn't said authorities said. And the reason for that is all the information in that paragraph is a fact, right? It's a fact. He was charged with these crimes. That's a fact. That's not an opinion. The district attorney went before a judge and said, we are charging this person with these crimes, right? That bail was set at $20,000 is not an opinion. It's a fact. And facts don't need to be attributed, right? So that's why there's no attribution here, because it's a matter of public record. Someone in public went before a judge and said, we're filing these charges. The judge said, set bail at $20,000. That's a fact. There are documents to support this. So you don't need to cite your source. The fourth paragraph here is a quote. And as I've mentioned in the other video, either that you'll watch next or that you've already seen, every story has to have quotes, right? People like hearing from people. Quotes give you credibility because, again, you're saying to the reader, hey, if you don't believe me, just look here. I didn't say it. This person did. I'm not making this up. I went and talked to person A. They gave me this information. I have quoted them. Trust me. Okay? So the quote is, the police did their investigation into the matter and brought charges against Justin Francis, said Peter Hendricks, a New Brunswick lawyer representing Francis. So this is the defense attorney here. And he's basically confirming everything the reporter has written above. The police investigated, brought charges, and that's what the defense attorney says, right? From our perspective, it's still an investigation stage. We're still trying to determine the facts. So this is a 2-sentence quote. Here's one sentence, and here's a second sentence. And when you have 2 sentences, you want to put your attribution, who said what, who's giving you this information, in the middle, because it breaks up the quote for the reader. The reader isn't just reviewing this long quote. They have some it's broken up a little bit. And it also gives them some clues to where this information is coming. So if you have a 1-sentence quote, the attribution goes at the end. If you have a 2-sentence quote, it goes in the middle. And your attribution always comes at the end of the quote. It comes at the end of this sentence. And the reason for that is in broadcast journalism, attribution goes at the front, but in online or print journalism, it goes at the end. And finally, we have a comment from the football coach. Rutgers football coach, who of course you would want to comment from, says here he can't comment in detail. So he says, I don't have a ton of information. I'm going to let the legal system, as I usually do, run its course, and I may comment on it then. But he has been suspended from our team. So what Ciano knows is that he has to provide some quote. He has to say something because, he's a D1 college coach. This is a football crazed state. There's lots of Rutgers boosters all over the state. People follow it closely. So he has to say something. And so what he's essentially saying here is, I'm not going to say anything. I don't have a lot of information. I'm going to let the legal system run its course. But he's definitely been suspended from the team. The reason I'm laughing is because he says, I'm going to let the legal system run its course, as I usually do, which means he's been in this position before about being asked about football players who've run into legal problems. That's kind of funny. Anyway, that is a hard news story. Those are the elements of a hard news story. You start with the lead, right? One paragraph, around 30 words. The most important information goes in that paragraph, which is one sentence. You answer the most important of the 5 W's and how. Your second paragraph is a backup paragraph. And whatever you say in the first paragraph, you have to support in the second, right? This is your quote, right? You have quote marks around it. Notice that at the end of a quote, before your attribution, there is a comma. Everybody forgets the comma. Punctuation goes inside the quote mark. Commas go inside the quote mark. Punctuation goes inside the quote mark. Here, the period goes inside the quote mark. Okay? We'll talk more about this in class next week, but that should get you started along with reading chapter 2. I'll talk to you then.